Welcome to our channel History of Coins, where we explore the hidden gems of numismatics. In today's video, we're diving into the fascinating world of rare wheat pennies. These classic coins hold an incredible history, and some are worth millions. So today, we are gonna uncover the rarest varieties, their values. So make sure to watch the complete video and find out if you have one of these. Now let's continue our today's video. Top 1 today, we're going deep into one of America's most iconic coins, a small copper piece with a story that echoes through time, the United States wheat penny from the year 1917. Now, you may be thinking, a penny? Really? What could be so special about a coin most people walk right past on the sidewalk? Well, let me tell you, this isn't just any penny. The 1917 wheat penny is not only a cherished artifact of American history, but in certain cases, it can be worth a small fortune. And I do mean fortune. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll find out how one of these tiny coins was sold for a mind-blowing amount, and why collectors all over the world are still chasing after it over a century later. Let's rewind the clock and set the stage. The year is 1917. The world is in the grip of the First World War. Woodrow Wilson is president, and the United States is shifting into a new global role. Amid this turbulent time, the U.S. Mint was producing millions of pennies, but not just any pennies. These were the iconic Lincoln wheat pennies, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. For the first time ever, a real person appeared on an American coin, and not just any person, but one of the most beloved presidents in U.S. history. On the front, or obverse, you'll find Lincoln's dignified profile. It's simple, strong, and powerful, just like the man himself. On the reverse side, two stalks of wheat flanking the words 1 cent. These wheat ears gave the coin its nickname, the wheat penny, and they represent abundance, growth, and the agricultural spirit of the nation during that era. Now, the 1917 edition of this coin was minted in 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint left its own subtle mark, or none at all, in the case of Philadelphia. These small letters, like the D for Denver or S for San Francisco, can dramatically affect the value of your coin. But it's not just the mint mark that collectors go wild for. It's the condition, the rarity, and in some cases, the presence of minting errors that make this coin a holy grail. Let's talk about rarity. Over 284 million Lincoln cents were struck in 1917. So yes, they were common back then, but here's the twist. Most of them were heavily circulated. They went from pocket to pocket, store to store, through world wars, the Great Depression, and decades of American life. So finding one today in perfect, untouched, mint state condition, that's extremely rare. And now for the juicy part, mint errors. This is where things get exciting for serious collectors. One of the most sought-after variations of the 1917 wheat penny is the 1917 double die obverse. What does that mean? Well, due to a misalignment during the minting process, the design was struck twice, creating a doubling effect that you can actually see with the naked eye. Look closely at the word Liberty or the date 1917 on some of these coins, and you might notice the letters and numbers appear doubled or shadowed. That's not damage, that's an error. And that error can launch the value of the coin into the stratosphere. These double die errors are exceptionally rare and incredibly valuable. But even regular 1917 wheat pennies in uncirculated condition can be worth far more than face value. Coin collectors, known as numismatists, obsess over these early Lincoln cents because they represent more than just metal. They represent moments in history, stories frozen in copper, and opportunities to own a piece of the past. Now imagine holding a coin that passed through the hands of someone who lived during the First World War, maybe even a soldier, or someone standing in line for bread during the Depression. That's the kind of historical depth this little coin carries. And that's why collectors will spend years searching for just the right piece. So, how much can a 1917 wheat penny actually be worth? Well, if your coin is heavily worn and has been through a century of use, it might fetch a few dollars from a casual collector. But if it's in excellent, uncirculated condition, or better yet, if it has that rare double die error, then you could be holding something truly special. Now here it comes. Are you ready for this? One rare specimen of the 1917 Lincoln wheat penny, preserved in pristine condition with a stunning error, was sold at auction for an incredible $83,000. That's right, $83,000 for a single penny. Let that sink in for a moment. One copper coin, worth less than a gumball when it was minted, now valued higher than most cars, college tuition, or even a down payment on a house. So, the next time you're digging through an old coin jar or sorting through a dusty collection passed down from a relative, look closely. Examine the dates, the mint marks, and especially the fine details. You never know when you might stumble upon a piece of history or a hidden treasure. Top 2, we're diving into a coin that many Americans have seen, held, or even forgotten in their grandparents' jars, the 1945 wheat penny. But before you dismiss it as just another old cent, let me ask you this. What if I told you that one of these seemingly ordinary pennies could be worth tens of thousands of dollars today? That's right. You might be sitting on something incredibly valuable without even realizing it. The 1945 wheat penny might look like just another vintage coin, but its history, errors, and unique features make it one of the most exciting finds for collectors. So grab your coin folders, turn on your curiosity, and get ready, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why collectors are willing to pay top dollar for this little piece of copper, and just how much it could be worth if you're lucky enough to have the right one. Let's set the stage. The year is 1945. The world is emerging from the darkness of World War II. The United States has just claimed victory, and soldiers are returning home. Ration books are being put away, victory gardens are fading, and America is stepping into a new era of hope and growth. Amid all this, the U.S. Mint continued its work, producing coins for a recovering and rapidly changing nation. The Lincoln wheat penny had already been in circulation since 1909, but the 1945 edition holds a special place in American coinage. It was one of the last pennies struck during the wartime era, and while millions were produced, over a billion, in fact, only a tiny fraction remain in pristine, collectible condition today. These pennies were made from copper and zinc, a return to the standard composition after the steel pennies of 1943, which were struck due to wartime metal shortages. The 1945 penny features the classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, with the words, "In God We Trust, Liberty," in the year 1945 stamped clearly around his profile. Turn it over, and you'll find the reverse side adorned with two simple but elegant wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. Below that, the Latin phrase e pluribus unum, which means out of many, one, ties the whole design together in a bold statement of unity and American identity. So what makes this coin special? And how can a common penny from 1945 possibly be worth so much? First, let's talk about condition. Most of the 1945 wheat pennies you'll come across have been through the ringer. They've been passed from hand to hand, sat in drawers, been buried in change jars, or rattled around in pockets for decades. Finding one that's in mint state condition, uncirculated, clean, with strong luster and crisp details, is rare. The better the condition, the more valuable it becomes. But the real goldmine lies in errors. Error coins are the crown jewels of the collecting world. And yes, the 1945 wheat penny has its own share of legendary errors. Some were struck slightly off-center. Others show doubling, where the date, letters, or design elements appear doubled because the coin was struck improperly at the mint. These are known as double die errors, and they are highly prized. There are also pennies where the mint mark was repunched, meaning it was stamped more than once, creating a shadow-like effect that's visible under magnification. These rare errors create excitement in the collector community, because they are one-of-a-kind variations that shouldn't exist. And in coin collecting, rarity is everything. Now here's something most people don't know. A select few 1945 wheat pennies were struck on the wrong type of metal planchets. For example, instead of being made of copper, some were mistakenly minted on leftover steel planchets from 1943 or even silver blanks from other coins. These rare planchet errors make the coin extremely valuable because they were never supposed to be made in the first place. Add to that coins with perfectly preserved mint luster, sharp strike details, or unique toning, and you've got a potential jackpot. This is where passion meets precision. True coin collectors know the thrill of spotting something others overlook. And the 1945 wheat penny has become a treasure hunt all its own. Imagine this. You're flipping through an old collection that belonged to your grandfather. You find a penny from 1945 that looks a little shinier, a little crisper, a little different. You take a closer look, and you realize you might be holding something worth far more than 1 cent. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. Are you ready to find out what the most valuable 1945 wheat penny ever sold for? One rare example. Flawless in condition, bearing a dramatic minting error, and authenticated by experts, was auctioned off to a private collector for a breathtaking total of $79,000. Yes, $79,000. For a single penny. So the next time you're going through a pocket of change or opening up that old family coin jar, don't overlook the pennies, especially the ones from 1945. You never know when you might stumble upon a rare piece of history that could change your fortune. Top 3. We're turning the spotlight on a small but mighty coin, the 1949 wheat penny from the United States of America. Now, at first glance, it might look like just another old penny, the kind you'd find tucked away in a dusty jar, hiding in the corner of your grandmother's kitchen, or buried deep in a box of forgotten family memories. But this coin has secrets. And if you know what to look for, it could be one of the most exciting finds in your collection. Because believe it or not, some of these little copper coins from 1949 have sold for jaw-dropping amounts. And yes, we're going to tell you exactly how much one of these has sold for, but you'll have to stay with us until the very end to hear that number in full. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Let's rewind time for a moment. It's the year 1949. World War II is in the rearview mirror, and the United States is stepping boldly into a new era of peace, prosperity, and industrial growth. Television is starting to appear in living rooms. Cars are rolling off the assembly lines, and the baby boom is well underway. In the middle of all this post-war optimism, the U.S. Mint continues to quietly produce coins for everyday use, including the iconic Lincoln wheat penny. The wheat penny, first introduced in 1909, had already become a staple of American currency. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse features a strong and solemn profile of Abraham Lincoln, facing right. Around him, you'll see the words, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date, 1949. Flip it over, and you're greeted by the simple elegance of 2 wheat ears, framing the bold statement, 1 cent, in United States of America. Below that, the timeless motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, 1 dot. But not all 1949 pennies are created equal. You see, while millions of these coins were struck that year, only a fraction have survived in high-grade condition. Most were used and abused, handed over for candy bars, dropped into piggy banks, left in the dirt. Over time, they picked up scratches, wear, discoloration. So today, finding a 1949 wheat penny in mint or uncirculated condition is like striking copper gold. And what really gets collectors excited, what truly sends this coin's value into the stratosphere, are the rare mint errors. That's right. Errors are the hidden gems of the coin world. And the 1949 wheat penny has a few surprises up its sleeve. One of the most sought-after errors from this year is the double die. This happens when the coin is struck twice during the minting process, creating a noticeable doubling of the design elements. Look closely at the date, or at the word liberty, and you might see a slight shadow or repetition in the letters and numbers. That's no accident. That's a mint error, and it can skyrocket a penny's value. Then there's the off-center strike. This occurs when the blank coin isn't properly aligned in the press, causing the image to be printed off-center. Some collectors specifically hunt for these because they're rare and visually striking. A perfectly misaligned coin? That's collector heaven. Another valuable anomaly is the repunched mint mark, often found on pennies struck in Denver or San Francisco. In 1949, coins were minted in Philadelphia, which had no mint mark, Denver, marked with a D, and San Francisco, marked with an S. If the mint mark was punched incorrectly and then corrected, it sometimes left behind traces of the original mark, a double or shadowed appearance. These coins are hot targets for error collectors. And let's not forget about planchet errors, cases where the penny was struck on the wrong metal or an incomplete blank. These are extremely rare, but when they show up, they create waves in the numismatic world. But beyond the errors, it's the condition of the coin that really makes a difference. A well-preserved, lustrous 1949 wheat penny with sharp detail and original red or red-brown coloring is worth far more than a typical pocket-worn example. These pristine coins often come from old bankrolls, collections that were never touched, or carefully stored numismatic archives. So you might be wondering, what's the magic combination? What does it take for a 1949 wheat penny to be worth serious money? Well, let's imagine this. A coin with an eye-catching mint error, flawless surfaces, and the kind of shine that turns heads at an auction house. A coin authenticated and graded by experts, locked in a protective case, drawing the attention of serious collectors from around the world. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. One such rare and extraordinary 1949 wheat penny. A coin with superb condition, a dramatic minting error, and impeccable preservation, was sold for a breathtaking total of $77,000. Yes, $77,000. For one single penny.so. The next time you're looking through a pile of old change or flipping through an inherited coin book, don't overlook that humble wheat penny from 1949. It might not look like much at first glance, but with the right features, it could be the rare treasure that changes everything. Top 4. We're about to explore the fascinating world of the 1951 wheat penny, a coin that might be sitting in your collection or even your pocket and could be worth a small fortune. The 1951 wheat penny may seem like just another piece of American currency, but hidden within its simple design and history are rare qualities that make it a sought-after gem in the world of coin collecting. So, before you toss that old penny aside, stick around and let's dive into what makes this coin so valuable and why certain versions of it can fetch staggering prices at auctions. Let's take a step back in time to the year 1951. The United States was experiencing a period of prosperity following World War II. The economy was booming, and the nation was on its way to becoming a global powerhouse. But in the world of coins, things were shifting too. The iconic Lincoln wheat penny had been in circulation for over 4 decades by this point, and by the early 1950s, collectors and investors alike were beginning to realize the value of certain older coins. The 1951 wheat penny carries with it the signature features of its predecessors. Abraham Lincoln's likeness, facing to the right, with the words, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," framing the portrait. Below Lincoln, the date, 1951, is clearly visible. On the reverse side of the coin, you'll find 2 stalks of wheat encircling the words 1 cent and United States of America. Above that, the Latin phrase e pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one, ties the design together. Now, you may be wondering, what's so special about this specific year? After all, millions of these coins were produced, right? Well, yes, millions of 1951 wheat pennies were struck, but just like with many coins, what truly sets them apart are the condition and any potential mint errors. Let's start with condition. As with any coin, the better its condition, the higher its value. Most of the 1951 wheat pennies you come across today have been heavily circulated. They've spent decades being passed from hand to hand, accumulating wear and tear. But finding one in mint or near mint condition is incredibly rare. Coins that have been kept in pristine condition, with no scratches, discoloration, or signs of circulation, are highly prized by collectors. And that brings us to something that really excites the world of numismatics: coin errors. Errors are one of the main factors that can turn an otherwise ordinary coin into an extraordinarily valuable one. The 1951 wheat penny, like many coins of its era, has its own set of intriguing errors, and some of them can send the value of a single penny soaring. One of the most notable errors from the 1951 wheat penny is the doubled die. This happens when the coin is struck twice, resulting in a slight misalignment that causes the design to appear doubled in certain areas, particularly the date or the word liberty. These doubled die coins are among the most sought after by collectors, as they're rarer and more difficult to find in good condition. If you happen to stumble upon a 1951 wheat penny with this error, it could make your collection worth significantly more. Another error to watch for is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin is misaligned during the minting process, causing the design to be stamped off-center. These off-center coins are fascinating to look at, and because they're not perfectly struck, they're considered a rare and valuable anomaly in the coin collecting world. There's also the possibility of repunched mint marks. For example, a 1951 penny minted in Denver should have a D mint mark, but occasionally, the minting process would leave behind a trace of a second D mint mark, creating a shadowed effect. These coins are considered errors and can increase a coin's value, especially if the mint mark is visible and distinct. Now, you might be wondering, how much is a 1951 wheat penny really worth? Well, it all comes down to the rarity and quality of the coin you're holding. For most of these coins, you'll find that their value is fairly modest, worth only a few cents or dollars in average condition. But when you find a pristine example, or better yet, a coin with a minting error, that's when things start to get exciting. And here's where it gets thrilling. One rare, error-free, high-quality 1951 wheat penny, an uncirculated gem, sold for a stunning $75,000. That's right, $75,000 for a single penny. So, next time you're sorting through a coin jar, don't just breeze past the 1951 wheat pennies. You might have a small fortune waiting to be uncovered. Whether it's the pristine condition, a double die error, or a minting anomaly, you could be holding a piece of history that's worth far more than you think. Top 5, we're going to talk about one of the most fascinating coins in American history, the 1953 wheat penny. At first glance, it might look like just another coin from the mid-20th century, but trust me, it has a story to tell. And if you know what to look for, it could be worth a lot more than you'd think. The 1953 wheat penny is part of the long-running Lincoln series, which has been a staple of American currency since its introduction in 1909. These pennies are some of the most recognizable coins in the world, with Abraham Lincoln's iconic portrait on the front and two stalks of wheat framing the reverse side. But while most of these pennies were produced in massive quantities and circulated widely, some of them have managed to survive in extraordinary condition, making them highly sought after by collectors. Let's take a step back in time and set the stage for 1953. The world had just emerged from the chaos of World War II, and the United States was in the midst of a post-war economic boom. The 1950s were a time of great prosperity and rapid technological advancement. In the midst of this era, the U.S. Mint continued producing the wheat penny, which would eventually be replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. But while the coin's design remained relatively unchanged, its value and significance to collectors were starting to rise. Now, if you look at a 1953 wheat penny, you'll see the usual design that's been a part of American currency for decades. On the front, you'll find Lincoln's bust with the words, "In God We Trust," and liberty surrounding him. Below, the year 1953 is prominently displayed. On the reverse side, you'll find the two stalks of wheat, and beneath them, the phrase 1 cent and United States of America. Simple, elegant, and timeless. But here's where it gets interesting. While many 1953 wheat pennies were produced, only a small percentage of them are in mint condition today. The vast majority have been worn down by years of circulation, fading in color, picking up scratches, and becoming damaged. That's why finding a 1953 wheat penny in uncirculated condition is a rare treasure, and it can command a premium price among collectors. The most sought-after 1953 wheat pennies are those that have survived without a scratch or blemish. A coin that has been preserved in a perfect state, shiny, smooth, and with every detail intact, holds far more value than a typical coin from the same year. And that's where the real value lies. These pristine examples are rare, and the demand for high-quality, uncirculated wheat pennies is high among serious coin collectors. But the rarity doesn't end there. One of the key elements that make a 1953 wheat penny truly valuable are the mint errors that occurred during production. Mint errors are a fascinating part of the world of numismatics, and they can turn a relatively common coin into something incredibly special. An incredibly expensive point, one of the most exciting errors to look for on a 1953 wheat penny is the double die. This error occurs when the coin is struck twice by the minting press, resulting in the design elements being slightly misaligned. If you closely inspect the coin, you might notice that certain letters and numbers appear to be doubled, giving the coin a distinct look. The most common places to find double die errors on a 1953 wheat penny are the date and the word liberty. These errors are incredibly sought after by collectors, and they can dramatically increase the value of a coin. Another valuable error to keep an eye out for is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin is misaligned in the press, causing the design to be stamped off-center. A 1953 wheat penny with an off-center strike can be a unique and visually striking piece, making it a highly desirable find for collectors looking for something special. Mint marks are another factor that can add to the value of the 1953 wheat penny. While most 1953 pennies were minted in Philadelphia, which means they have no mint mark, there were also coins produced in Denver and San Francisco. A 1953 wheat penny with a rare mint mark, especially in high grade, could be worth more than a typical 1953 coin. And of course, there's the possibility of planchet errors, where a coin is struck on the wrong metal or has an incomplete planchet. These errors are incredibly rare, and if you find a 1953 wheat penny with one of these mistakes, you might just have a treasure on your hands. So, how much is a 1953 wheat penny really worth? Well, for most coins, the value is modest, usually just a few cents or a few dollars in average condition. But when you start talking about mint errors or pristine examples, the price can skyrocket. One of the most remarkable sales of a 1953 wheat penny occurred when a high-quality, error-free example was sold at auction for a staggering $72,000. Yes, you heard that right, $72,000 for a single penny. It's amazing to think that a coin as small and simple as the 1953 wheat penny could be worth such an impressive amount. Whether it's the perfect condition, a rare mint error, or a combination of both, this little piece of history is a highly coveted treasure for serious coin collectors. So, the next time you're sifting through a jar of old pennies, take a closer look at those 1953 wheat pennies. They might look ordinary, but if you know what to look for, you could be holding on to a piece of history that's worth far more than its face value. Thank you for joining us today as we uncover the hidden value of the 1953 wheat penny. If you love learning about rare coins, hidden treasures, and the incredible stories behind them, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest coin discoveries. And remember, there's always more to a coin than meets the eye. Keep searching, keep collecting, and you never know when you'll find your next great treasure. Until next time, happy collecting.